back again with another review, and today we're going to talk about and review The Running Man. And right off the bat, really good Arnold film, and it was great to watch again. The last time I had saw this film was a couple of years ago. I saw a double feature of this film and Demolition Man on the big screen with a packed house, and that was really fun. And when this movie started playing, they showed a couple of trailers before the film from other movies that came out that year, and one of them was Over the Top. And when that trailer came up, everybody in the audience cheered, and that was a really cool moment. And that I still remember. And seeing this on the big screen and Demolition Man was a lot of fun. Had a good time, and watching this again for this marathon. Again, it's a really good Arnold film, and I dare to say it's underrated because it just seems like, not a lot of people talk about this movie. People talk about Predator more, they talk about True Lies more, Terminator more. And, I mean, yeah, they're great movies, but, there's that part of me, and I'm like, The Running Man's great too. But, yeah, so I'm going to get into a bunch of stuff here with this movie. But let's talk about the plot. Now, in the future, the world economy has collapsed and the United States has become a military-controlled police state. In this police state, criminals have a choice. They can serve their sentence or they can take a part in the Running Man, which is a violent game show, where contestants are running for freedom and they're pursued by these stalkers, sort of like gladiators. And it's a top rating show. You have the host, Damon Killian, played by Richard Dawson. It's funny because was it around this time he was the host of the Family Feud? Yeah, it may have been around this time. But so this show is really popular. Arnold Schwarzenegger's character is a former police officer, Ben Richards, and he's framed for a massacre, and he breaks out of prison, and then soon enough, he gets recaptured, and he's forced to appear on the Running Man, and he has to survive, and that's the plot here to this film. Now, the film is directed by Paul Michael Glacier, Starsky from Starsky and Hutch, and as far as other credits, I mean, prior to this film, he had directed some episodes of Miami Vice, and then later he would come back to film, directing some other stuff, like he directed The Cutting Edge and Kazam, which surprised me because I did not know that. Like, I was researching what else he had directed, and yes, he directed Kazam with Shaq, which is bad. So I don't know what happened there. What were you thinking, Starsky? But the film, The Running Man, is based on the novel by Stephen King, and I haven't read the book. One thing that I have heard about that, and I'm always, if I'm wrong, please correct me. One thing I've heard of over the years about that is that in the end, Ben Richards dies via sacrifice. Like he sacrificed himself or something. Again, I've heard that before. Again, I haven't read the book, so I can't say for sure. Now, the screenplay is by Stephen E. D'Souza, who also wrote the screenplay for Die Hard, Commando, 48 Hours, a lot of action movies at this time. Now, going back to Paul Michael Glacier for a second, as far as his direction in the movie, to me, it's really good. I mean, for a guy that, at this time, doing work on Miami Vice and, I felt that he did a really good job here. And I want to say that there were some, like, I was looking at some notes, like, apparently George P. Cosmatos was in talks. And it says right here, to get into some info about that, prior to Paul Michael Glacier being hired as a director, Rob Cohen, who executive produced, had hired 4 other directors in his attempts to make the movie. The first director was George P. Cosmatos, who had impressed Cohen with his work on Rambo: First Blood Part 2. However, when Cosmatos announced that he wanted to relocate the entire film to a shopping mall, Cohen let him go, feeling that Cosmatos was taking the script in an unacceptable direction. Cohen next offered the project to German director Karl Schinkel. Uh, I think he directed this film. Well, it says right here, Out of Order, which I never heard of. Then he turned him down, and then he offered to another director, Ferdinand Fairfax, based upon his work on Savage Islands. Cosmatos, however, Fairfax began to take the screenplay in a direction which Cohen disliked. So once again, let him go. Cohen then turned to Andrew Davis, having enjoyed Davis's work on Code of Silence. Davis actually got the project off the ground and into production, but only 8 days into the shoot, he was already $8 million over budget and 4 days behind schedule. As such, Cohen let Davis go and ultimately hired, Paul Michael Glacier, who worked on the first season of Miami Vice, to come and direct. Which is interesting. I mean, going through George P. Cosmatos, to me, he's a really good director. I mean, I wonder what he would have done with this movie. I wonder what Andrew Davis, because that's the same guy that, directed Code of Silence, but he also directed Above the Law and The Fugitive. What kind of direction he would have taken this movie. And I'm not saying that to take anything away from Paul Michael Glacier, but, again, it's really interesting to look at, the different directors they went through on this movie before deciding on Starsky. But, yeah, I felt, again, his direction here, Paul Michael Glacier, is really solid. So I give credit to the director and his direction. Now, as far as the cast, the main character of Ben Richards, now before Arnold was casted, I know that they had talked about some other names. For example, Christopher Reeve was once attached to play Ben Richards. I know another name at one point they considered was Dolph Lundgren. And apparently Don Johnson. Yes, Don Johnson was offered the film, but turned it down to remain on Miami Vice. But it's interesting to, bring that up and, you think about these actors, because I think, Christopher Reeve would have been cool. But, ultimately they went with Arnold. And to me, it was a great call. Arnold, was great here. Really knocked it out of the park. And I'll talk about some of the moments and, the quotes here in a little bit. But, you got to think about this time. This is the same year you would have Predator. So Arnold was on top, and just great casting. The supporting cast, you have Maria Conchita Alonso as Amber. And of course, she would be in Predator 2. You have Yaphet Kotto as one of Arnold's buddies in the film. Yaphet Kotto was in Alien, Live and Let Die. And I know he passed away not too long ago, maybe last year or the year before. But a great actor. You have Richard Dawson as the host of The Running Man. And I know he was the host of The Family Feud, but I was trying to think of, if it was around this time or before. But I think it was around this time. But to me, he fit the role well as this host. And, so Richard Dawson did a great job. And he really fit in naturally. Like, being the host of The Family Feud. And you cast him in this role. And I felt that he just fit that role well. As far as the Stalkers in the film, you have Jim Brown, who plays Fireball. Yeah, Jesse Ventura as Captain Freedom. You have this stalker Dynamo, played by Erland Van Lith. And I remember him because he was Grossberger in Stir Crazy with Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor. And unfortunately, he passed away shortly after this film came out at a young age. which is unfortunate. But yeah, I remember, yeah, he was a Grossberger in Stir Crazy. And so he was Dynamo. And you also have some other Stalkers like Professor Sub-Zero. Not the Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat, but Professor Tor Tanaka. Yes, from The Perfect Weapon. He would be in later on with Jeff Speakman. And he would be in some other stuff. But, he's a Stalker in the film. You have this other Stalker, Buzzsaw, played by Gus Rethwish. And I probably got that wrong. I'm not great at pronouncing last names, but I try, and I give credit. You also have Kurt Fuller in the film. And Kurt Fuller is one of those guys that you've seen before. Hey, there's that guy. I remember he was in Ghostbusters 2, Anger Management, as Adam Sandler's boss. But, this whole cast, everyone played their part, plays their part well. From Arnold to Maria Conchita Alonso, who is gorgeous, by the way. Richard Dawson, again, I felt that he fit naturally in that role. I mean, because when it comes to that character, the host of The Running Man, I mean, you could have hired, anybody at this time, any actor, what have you, and you actually have a game show host this game show in this movie. And I just felt that, he was a great antagonist. And the Stalkers, like every Stalker had a personality. Every Stalker was different or had a different weapon. And these are guys that you would not want to meet in an alleyway. I mean, if you saw Sub-Zero, again, Professor Sub-Zero, if you saw Tor Tanaka in an alleyway, I think you would turn the other way. Same with, Captain Freedom, Jesse Ventura, Dynamo. But, I mean, just a really good cast. Everyone, again, plays their part well. The film definitely has a lot of great moments. And, like Predator, this is another film that you can quote. I mean, for example, the part where he kills Sub-Zero. Killian, here's your Sub-Zero. Now, Plane Zero. And then you got the moment where, Killian's trying to talk to Arnold, trying to negotiate with him. And then he rips the surveillance monitor off the wall. You cold-blooded bastard. I'll tell you what I think of it. I'll live to see you eat that contract. But I hope you leave enough room for my fist, or my cousin going to ram into your stomach and break your goddamn spine. I'm going over the top with it, but that's a moment that it just... I still remember, too, seeing that in the theater. And when that moment came up, everybody was, like, cheering. Everybody just got excited when that moment, came up. And then there's another part where he's like, Killian, I'll be back. And Damon's like, only in a rerun. Go. And then Damon, like, early on when they bring in Arnold from The Running Man. Hi, cutie pie. One of us is in deep trouble. You know who I am? I've seen you before. You're the asshole on TV. That's funny. I was going to say the same thing about you. And then he has one, like Ben Richards has a piece of quote in there, piece of dialogue that I liked. And he's like, I'm not into politics. I'm into survival. And there's so many other quotes. Like, I can quote this movie all day. But, great moments too. For example, killing Buzzsaw, he had to split. That was a great moment. Hey, Christmas tree, when Dynamo is coming after Ben Richards. And like I said, the action, again, when it happens, it's a lot of fun. Arnold taking out these gladiators one by one, these stalkers, I should say. And, every stalker has a different comeuppance. And when you see these stalkers, like, again, each stalker is different. Every stalker has, some kind of weapon. Each one is, is featured differently. Like, if it was American Gladiators on crack, But again, that's credit to the cast, and again, just a lot of great moments. A lot of great. I just mentioned a few quotes right there. I'm not gonna quote the entire movie, but I mean, just I just love the dialogue in the movie, and you know the fun bits of action and the fun bits of thrills, if you want to say, and really good score by Harold Faltermeyer. And I felt he did a really good job with the score. Then I could I can hear it in my mind right now, and it's just a memorable score. And as far as like other side notes and stuff, I mean, some stuff here that I didn't mention, like if you want to say that, trivia or whatever, what have you. And now this film was originally scheduled for July 1987 release, and it was moved back 4 months to avoid competition with Predator. Schwarzenegger had thought, Paul Michael Glacier was a terrible choice to direct, you know, with Glacier coming from a TV background and I having no film experience as a director. He thought that Glacier shot this film like a TV show. And I know that's one thing that people have complained about, that it has that kind of TV show quality direction. But I felt that, for a guy that, again, going back to the director, not having a lot of film credit, I did feel that he did a really solid job here. And, with the production value and handling the characters and the story and the future, because there's a lot of elements here in this film, when you think about today, how things can be misdirected or altered, when it comes to like, news and stuff, headlines, like you see in the film, Ben Richards, they frame him for this massacre that he didn't commit. They just altered the footage. They edited the footage, for the game show. You think about that. Think about that now. This film takes place in what year? 2017, 2019? So it's a little bit close to home. At... Okay, it's just work related. But yeah, I mean, you think about that stuff. Think about the future you see here is like right in front of us. Kind of like Demolition Man. But again, going back to the director, I felt he did a really good job here. But it also says Schwarzenegger suspected that because the director was a last-minute replacement, he didn't have time to research this future he was depicting, unlike Cameron had with Terminator. Also, in television, they hire you, and the very next week you shoot. So he didn't place all the blame at Glacier's feet. And going back to George P. Cosmatos for a second, that director, who also directed Leviathan, directed Cobra, other films like Of Unknown Origin, he wanted to relocate the entire film to a shopping mall. This may be the influence for a level in the game Manhunt, which I've never played, but I've heard of, which is based on a similar premise in which a former death row inmate must fight for his life against several different street gangs in a complex snuff film. One of these levels, called View of Innocence, takes place in an abandoned shopping mall. So again, it's interesting. But, as far as overall thoughts with this movie here, The Running Man to me is a really good Arnold film. Perhaps, I feel that it deserves a little bit more spotlight, a little bit more recognition. I mean, yeah, I mean, as great as, his other films are, like, whether it be Predator, T2, True Lies, what have you. But this is also a great one. And I also have to mention Great song at the end by John Parth. I don't know why I'm forgetting the name of that song. I'm gonna look it up right here. So I'm not gonna edit this out. I want to get that. Yeah, Restless Heart. Yeah, that's the song I was thinking about. I got the name right, but I could not think of the song. But I really enjoyed that song. And, really good score from Harold Faltermeyer. I thought the direction here was really solid. The cast all around, they do a really good job here. From Arnold to, Jim Brown and Jesse Ventura was cool to see. Richard Dawson fit the role well. Uh, I thought the script was handled well. And if you have not seen this film, do give it a watch. And I mean, of course, this is an idea that it's been done since. I mean, like this type of plot and what have you. And like I said, I haven't read the novel, so I don't know what's close, what is close to the novel, what is not. But this is one Schwarzenegger film here that I do recommend and definitely will be in my top 10. But yeah, that's it for now. Thank you for watching. And again, if you haven't seen the film, do check it out. But that's my review of The Running Man. And next up, we'll be talking about Red Heat. So thank you for watching and have a good day.